Vinyls. You all know them, some of you probably love them, and maybe some of you collect them. And today I just kind of wanted to go through my own vinyl collection that I've been steadily gathering since October when I first bought a turntable. And yes, this video is very much inspired by Anthony Fantano, who a few days ago did his own kind of like unboxing thing where he talked about some of the new vinyls that he got recently. And I thought it looked fun, so I kind of wanted to go through my own collection and kind of show you all what I've been listening to. Because since I got my turntable in October, my interest in collecting vinyls has become borderline unhealthy. For reference, when I first got my turntable in October, I bought 2 vinyls to spin with my new turntable. Fast forward to the present day, and this is what we have. This is a collection of all of the vinyls I've bought from October to the present day, including used vinyls, new vinyls, and vinyls from all different decades. And so I wanted to go through this little pile with you and kind of show you what I've been listening to lately. And before we begin, I just want to give you a little taste of what you can expect from this enormous pile. Because while I do think my taste is a little bit eclectic and all over the place, it's not quite as niche as I sometimes think it is. You're gonna be seeing a lot of big names, a lot of modern names, because the truth is, a lot of the music I enjoy listening to is from like the 2000s and onwards. I wasn't around for a lot of the old classics, so I don't really know what's good from that era. For that, you'd have to talk to my dad. He's got some amazing like Depeche Mode vinyls, New Order, stuff like that. And in terms of genres, you're gonna see stuff from all over the place. You're gonna see some pop, some hip hop, jazz, country, a whole bunch of stuff. Soundtracks too. And so we're just gonna hopefully quickly look at each vinyl that I got. I'll kind of, give you the tour. And if any of these vinyls happen to have like a special color or pattern on them, aside from just a standard black vinyl, I'll probably spend a little bit more time on those because I like them. All of my vinyls here are organized alphabetically by artist, and then if I have multiple vinyls by a singular artist, I have them ordered in chronology, like from oldest to newest. So that's how we're gonna go through this stack. And I'll let you know right now, while I am getting into the realm of vinyl collection, I am in no way super versed in the actual process of making vinyl, so I can't just be like, oh yep, this is a 180 gram second pressing of such. I don't really know any of that stuff, unfortunately. This is more of a tour than it is a deep dive. So yeah, let's just get into it. Colter Wall. You may have heard of him. He is a country artist coming out of Saskatchewan, Canada, and has quickly become one of my favorite country artists in the modern era. I was introduced to him by a friend at university who I was talking to about really liking Johnny Cash and his music, and he said, well, if you really like that stuff, you will love Colter Wall, and I absolutely did. His method of storytelling in his music combined with his very unique voice creates an incredible atmosphere to listen to. And I've got a couple vinyls by him, the first being his album Colter Wall, which is probably my favorite out of his. And for all of the single LP vinyls that I have, I'm trying to keep them in the plastic sleeve just to, protect it a little bit. But obviously for the double LPs, you have to open it so that you can, open it up and appreciate it. But yeah, we've got obviously a picture of Colter Wall on the front here, and then on the back we've got a few small portraits that kind of accompany the different tracks of the album. And like I said, it's a single LP, but this one specifically is the red vinyl edition, which means when we take this sucker out of the sleeve, you got this really nice red, deep red vinyl, which I just think is really cool. And we got, side A, side B, obviously. So yeah, unique colors are definitely a bonus with me when I'm purchasing vinyls. But this LP is amazing. It's full of great melancholic country style storytelling. You've got Kate McCannon on here. That's a song, not a person. I guess it is a person in the story. You've got Codeine Dream, Transcendent Ramblin' Railroad Blues. Lots of amazing tunes to come out of this. And fun fact, I only just found this out recently, but Colter Wall is apparently the son of former Saskatchewan Premier Brad Wall, which I had no idea. That's not really relevant to the album. It's just a little tidbit about Colter Wall that I genuinely just didn't know. And I also have his LP Little Songs, which is, again, an instant classic for me. Prairie Evenings / Sagebrush Waltz is just an amazing vibe. And this vinyl is just a standard black vinyl, which is fine. I just, you know, I love the special colors or unique patterns that some of the artists like to go with for their vinyls. But yeah, I definitely recommend this one if you're interested in checking out Colter Wall's stuff. Also, Imaginary Appalachia, his first album, amazing. Just gonna put this back and let's keep going. Headshot for the year, You Better Walk Around Like Daft Punk. I got the Random Access Memory double LP by Daft Punk, of course. I just love the very unique sound that this duo brought to their music. Rest in peace, Daft Punk. They're not dead, they're just broken up. And of course, I love the track Get Lucky featuring Pharrell. It's an amazing track. This whole album is full of amazing tracks. And yeah, on the inside, we've got this very cool looking little MIDI keyboard or synthesizer. And with the LP came this really cool booklet that just kind of, you know, has a bunch of cool little sketches as well as the track list and all the details, of course, for the album. A bunch of producer credits, feature credits, stuff like that. It's even got the lyrics to all the tracks on it, which is really cool. And of course, I showed the other sketch, so I gotta show this one too. And in terms of the actual vinyl, we've got the standard black, but with a red that I think looks very vintage and very cool. I love the look. And yeah, spinning this one was a genuine treat. And I definitely have plans in the future of getting more Daft Punk records. I just wanted to start with Random Access Memories. And I never mentioned this, but all of these vinyls that you're seeing here, I either bought used from people kind of around town, people I know, or they're vinyls I either got at Sunrise Records or at this amazing used record store I found in Red Deer. I live in small town Alberta, and so you have to drive to the city to find any good record stores, and I found this really nice one that sells used and new records. And so if you're in the Red Deer area, check out Rock On Records. They've got an amazing catalog. I could spend hours in there easily. You like jazz? Because I sure do. I've got a vinyl copy of Ella and Louie, obviously featuring two legends of jazz, Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong. I just love their dynamic whenever they work together, and so an entire album that's just those two jamming out is going to be amazing. And for those who don't know, Ella Fitzgerald is an amazing jazz singer with a beautiful voice, and Louis Armstrong you may know for his very raspy and unique vocal delivery. And in addition, he is an amazing trumpet player and plays all of the trumpet instrumentals throughout this album. The original LP was released in '56, but this is a 2013 high fidelity remastering of the iconic album with just your standard black vinyl. And you may see this one in the background of some of my sets because I like to have this record on display because it's one of my favorite jazz albums to listen to. Elvis Presley, the King. As you can tell by the cover, this one is very much used, but still great nonetheless. This is specifically an album of his NBC special that he did, where he performs various medleys of plenty songs that he became famous for. And surprisingly, this is the only Elvis record that I own currently, but I'll probably get more in the future. Now, as I said, this one came very used, and as such, there isn't actually a protective sleeve inside here, which is not the best because it's just the actual vinyl in here without any protection, which is not great, but it is an old used record, so you know, I knew what I was getting into. But it still plays fantastically despite being extremely old. And for my first and only kind of mixtape album I have, we've got the soundtrack for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. James Gunn always had an amazing taste in music for the Guardians movies, but Volume 2 I think was probably his best in terms of music choice. Electric Light Orchestra, Cat Stevens, Fleetwood Mac, Sam Cooke, amazing performers. And this vinyl came in a very unique, kind of like orange-white, almost tie-dye looking color. It's a single LP, but it is an amazing spin. I'm trying to speed run these so that we can get through them all. There's a lot to get through. Hans Zimmer. You know him, you love him. He's made some of the most legendary soundtracks for movies. of the 21st century, and in my opinion, this may have been one of his best, because I got the Arrakis edition for his soundtrack of Dune Part 2. And this is a very special edition, so we're going to be spending a little bit more time on this one after I open all of the protective sleeves that I have this thing wrapped in. So you take it out of that sleeve, and then, oh, this is also a sleeve. And a huge shout out to the amazing artwork in this vinyl casing. Obviously, we've got Paul Atreides on the front, and on the back, we have the track listing as well as Muad'Dib, the desert mouse. And if we open the sucker up, is that Chani and Feyd-Rautha Harkonnen? And if we open it up even more, we have this full spread of the Fremen on Arrakis with their sandworms. It's incredible. And I'm gonna walk you through this step by step. We have the first LP with some amazing artwork of the Emperor on it, and just the most gorgeous looking vinyl I have ever seen. It's this amazing rippling orange effect to kind of mimic the sand dunes of Arrakis. In terms of alternate color vinyls, this is probably the coolest one that I own. And then in this sleeve here, we have some artwork of the Lady Jessica, and on the back we have Stilgar. But when we open this sucker up, it's actually a conversation between Hans Zimmer and the director of Dune Part 2, Denis Villeneuve. So yeah, that was pretty cool. That was a very nice detail. And of course, this is a double LP, so we have the second part right here with the Princess Irulan on the front. And this vinyl also has a very unique color scheme. This one a little bit more gold, kind of, I believe it's meant to represent like the royalty that is her bloodline. But yeah, this was an amazing find. When I found it, they had just gotten it that day. It was the only one in the store. I bought this at Sunrise Records. And of course I had to scoop it up. So yeah, that's this one for you. Really cool, love it. And Hans Zimmer absolutely cooked with this soundtrack. The fact that it wasn't eligible to be nominated for Best Score this year is an absolute travesty, which obviously I'm not bitter about it. Not in the slightest. Johnny Cash, one of my favorite country artists of all time, amazing singer, and just all around crazy guy. And I have several of his albums. Most of them are very much used. All of them are very much used, actually. Beginning, of course, with his Live at Folsom Prison album, which was amazing. Live albums are such a lost art and a missed potential in the modern day. I think more artists should be selling live albums. And the fact that he was doing these concerts at prisons is amazing. Johnny Cash, if you don't know, was a huge advocate for prison reform, and I hope that means what I think it means. He wanted prisoners to be treated better, and for people of all colors to be given fair trials. And obviously this is a single LP with the classic black, followed immediately afterwards with his Live at San Quentin Prison. This may be one of my favorite albums of Johnny Cash's. He was just on one during this performance. You'd have to hear it to see it. But it's an amazing record. And of course, it's the standard black vinyl as well. It's very heavily scratched. I don't think this one actually spins, but I got it for free, so it is what it is. Maybe I'll put it on the wall somewhere. Or if there's ways to fix a record that's heavily scratched, let me know in the comments, because I genuinely don't know. Johnny Cash, I Walk the Line, and several of his other hits. Folsom Prison Blues, I Still Miss Someone, Wreck of the Old 97. I just love Johnny Cash so much. And Johnny Cash Golden Hits Volume 1. Obviously more of his classics in this one. These were all bought used. I haven't been able to find an unopened Johnny Cash album yet. This is also featuring the Tennessee 2 as his accompanying musicians. And for another jazz album, I have John Coltrane Plays the Blues. John Coltrane is one of my favorite jazz musicians of all time. He's got some amazing hits. And this is a single LP that contains a bonus track as well as an alternate take of one of his songs. And it's just a really nice looking record. Like, I love this artwork. And of course, it's the classic black vinyl as well. Most of the oldies were. This came from that used record store I was talking about, Rock On Records. I found a lot of golden oldies there. Kendrick Lamar. One of the greatest rappers of the 21st century, possibly the best rapper of the 21st century. And boy have I been missing out, but boy am I eating good now that I've gotten introduced to his discography. Of course, I've known the hits of his career like Humble, DNA, stuff like that, and I listened to his album that he did for the Black Panther movie, but that was a long time ago and I didn't truly understand his game because I was very young. But after the insane year he had last year, I started checking out his stuff and realized that he's really good. And so we're starting out with his double LP, To Pimp a Butterfly. I may have just been introduced to this album this year, but it is fast becoming not only one of my favorite hip-hop albums, but also one of my favorite albums in general. It's an amazing album that combines his very unique style of rapping with jazz and funk instrumentals. And so it's very experimental, but it's also extremely cohesive. There's nothing really that I could say about this album that dozens of more qualified people on YouTube haven't already said. And personally, if I was to pick a Kendrick album to win a Pulitzer Prize, it would have been this one. Although I am happy that Damn did get the prize. Now, of course, this is a double LP. We've got some photos in here as well as the image of a butterfly. And the vinyl is, of course, your trademark black LP. But this album has some amazing songs on it. King Kunta, All Right. Even the interlude, For Free, has some of the most unhinged and technically amazing rapping I have ever seen. And it's a really tight sleeve, so it's kind of hard to get it back in there. This album is amazing. I find myself spinning this particular vinyl at least twice a week. It's amazing. I Remember You was conflicted. And of course, Damn. Obviously, the Pulitzer Prize winning album by Kendrick. Amazing deep cuts as well as classic hits. And on the inside, we have an even bigger Damn. It's an amazing album with contrasting themes that showcase the struggles that Kendrick has battled with for years that were also present in To Pimp a Butterfly, of course. An amazing album. And speaking of Black Panther, we have the double LP Black Panther soundtrack. Now, the last time I listened to this album, I was, as I said, pretty young. It was when the movie had just come out. And so I didn't really understand any of the underlying messages in the album. But listening back on this album has been a treat. Of course, you've got the hits like All the Stars with SZA, as well as features from the likes of Future, 2 Chainz, J-Rock, Anderson .Paak. But this is, in my opinion, a TDE classic. It may have been an album that was meant to release alongside the movie Black Panther, but I think this also just stands on its own. And of course, Pray For Me featuring The Weeknd is a banger. I love The Weeknd. We're gonna get to him. And of course, his album from 2024, GNX. This is an incredible West Coast classic. I did at one point toy around with the idea of making a video on this album. I even started writing the script, but really there was nothing I could say about it that Anthony Fantano hadn't already said, and it kind of feels weird to me to talk about how this album, you know, really speaks to the African American experience, which, look at me. But it's an amazing album nonetheless. And I got the indie exclusive from Rock On Records, which is an indie record store. And so of course we've got the GNX on the sleeve, front and back. And because it was an indie exclusive, I got it in this really nice blue. Side 2 has obviously the spokes of the wheels. And then here's the front. Isn't that nice? So nice. The West Coast really came through last year, let me tell you. And of course, on the back of the actual album, we have the GNX. It's an amazing listen if you haven't listened to it at this point. I highly recommend GNX. It's also probably one of Kendrick's most accessible albums, I'd say. A lot of his stuff is very out there, very unique, which is obviously great to listen to, but this one definitely has the most like mainstream appeal, I would say. So yeah, check out Kendrick if you haven't already. You will not be disappointed, I promise. And I didn't mention the beef at all in this video, so hey. Certified lover boy, certified. Lana Del Rey, the Taylor Swift of sad people, and a unique artist who I very much love listening to. I of course have her breakout EP, Born to Die. Just the vibes that she brings to each album is incredible. The vintage Americana vibes combined with just a deep melancholy that you can't escape from, and the cinematic production on her albums. So yeah, this is absolutely a classic for me. And more recently, the double LP Blue Banisters, which may be one of my favorites of hers. If you haven't listened to the track Arcadia, I definitely recommend it if you're in a somber mood. If you're in a good mood, you may want to skip Lana. But I love her stuff, and Blue Banisters was an amazing album. Also co-produced by Mike Dean, so if that name rings a bell, you should check out this album. And now for my only blues album that I have, at least on vinyl at the time of recording this, we have Hard Again by Muddy Waters. Muddy Waters is one of my favorite blues musicians, or at least he's probably not alive now, but he was amazing. If you're looking for classic vintage style blues, then you gotta check this guy out. Like I've said, my tastes in music tend not to be very like niche or quirky and unique, but when I was purchasing this album at Rock On Records, the guy who was at the counter, he has like super long hair, mustache, and glasses, like your classic like record store looking guy. He took one look at this album and was like, hey, good choice. So I felt really special. Hard Again is an amazing album, and I highly recommend you check it out. It's classic blues stuff, and it's got an amazing look to it. It is the classic black vinyl, but just the epic Muddy Waters, you know, centerpiece. It's also extremely thin and wobbly, which I don't know if that's good or bad. It's definitely thinner than most vinyls I have, which I'm not sure how to feel about, but it plays very well. So I have no complaints. Nat King Cole, one of the greatest jazz vocalists and musicians of all time. He combined rich, smooth jazz instrumentals with his very smooth and relaxed delivery to create something amazing. And so I have here the first vinyl of his, A Tribute to Nat King Cole, Part 2. I don't know where Part 1 is. I got this from the used record store. If you haven't listened to this man sing, I highly recommend just looking up any of his songs and just listening to this man cook. I took a couple music production courses in university where I kind of, you know, learned how to make music, how to mix it and all that stuff. And the teacher for that class really loves Nat King Cole. So I bought this for me, but I also kind of bought it for him. So Jeff Gibbons on YouTube, if you see this, hi. Yeah, my teacher is actually internet famous. Jeff Gibbons on YouTube. And I bought this one in December, obviously, but we have Nat King Cole Christmas. Now this is a re-release of some of his Christmas albums, including features from modern musicians like Calvin Harris, John Legend, and it's a little dusty because it sits on display on one of my shelves downstairs. But it's an amazing listen. It's got Christmas classics, carols, and it's just quite the vibe to bring to the Christmas season. I know it's March, but I kind of want to spin this now because I just love Nat King Cole's voice. And from the $5 bin at Rock On Records, I got this, the complete soundtrack for The Godfather, composed by Nino Rota. Now this one is a relatively fresh find. I haven't even had the opportunity to spin it yet, but I love The Godfather and I love the soundtrack for that movie. And on the back we have this lovely picture of Marlon Brando in his role as the Godfather. But yeah, I'm absolutely looking forward to pulling this out and giving it a spin one day. Post Malone, hip-hop artist turned country artist, and I've got a couple of his vinyls. Starting out with the album 12 Karat Toothache, which is one of my favorites of his. The fact that it delves into his vices and his mental health struggles, it's an amazing album. And I've talked about it before on this channel in depth, so you can absolutely check that out if you're interested. But it's got some of my favorite Post Malone songs on it. Wrapped Around Your Finger, Reputation, Euthanasia, Lemon Tree. In my opinion, the features on this album are honestly kind of weak, except for the Kid Laroi, who really brought it. And the feature by Fleet Foxes on Love Hate Letter to Alcohol is incredible. Now, of course, this is a double LP, as you can see here. We got Toothache on the cover here, and in the sleeve, the LP itself is this deep blood red, which kind of fits the theme of the album. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's this like black swirling in the mix of the red, so it creates this really cool effect. I'm just trying to do a bunch of different angles so you can hopefully see it. But yeah, if ever I was gonna own an album of his on vinyl, it would have been 12 Karat Toothache. And we've got the follow-up album, Austin, which may be my favorite album of his of all time. If 12 Karat Toothache is the depression and the struggles that he was facing as an artist at the time, then Austin represented him finally breaking free from all of that and just coming to a much better spot mentally, which I thought was really nice. The album, of course, being named Austin because this possibly represents the most authentic he has ever been on an album. And on the back, we've got a shot of his truck, which may also be the truck from F1 Trillion. I'm not sure. And for those wondering, I did really enjoy F1 Trillion. Not much modern country music really interests me, but F1 Trillion was so good. I have said for years that Post Malone needs to sing country. He is so good at it. And on the inside, we have, of course, his truck, the big truck. And the album itself is your standard black vinyl with a little cutout of him at the pool. But this is a really nice album, and I love the way it's packaged. And speaking of Ray Charles, we have this Ray Charles album. Ray Charles Invites You to Listen, which I got from the $5 bin. I still haven't had the chance to spin this one yet, but I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, I have that. And this one was actually gifted to me on Christmas Day by my brother. So if you watch this video, thank you so much, I love it. But I have the soundtrack to Merry Christmas Charlie Brown by Vince Guaraldi because I absolutely adore this soundtrack and just the Peanuts characters in general. And this is actually a special edition high fidelity record that includes a separate LP. It is a double LP. We've got Charlie Brown and Snoopy on the inside, as well as interviews and commentary that's kind of written out here for this album. And so it's really cool getting to see, you know, the story behind the making of this. The first LP is the soundtrack that you hear in the actual special, but the second LP is full of bonus tracks, alternative takes, and behind the scenes Vince directing his band and the performers. And so it's a really cool peek behind the curtain into the making of the soundtrack for this special that I think is very special. So absolutely give this a listen when you get the chance if you haven't already. I love Peanuts and I love Merry Christmas Charlie Brown, and this was an amazing gift. The Weeknd. Now, I've talked about The Weeknd before on this channel, and I just started a series talking about The Weeknd, and so I'm gonna talk a little bit more about him right now. The Weeknd has been, since I first listened to one of his albums, my absolute favorite artist of all time. There isn't a single entry in his discography that I haven't enjoyed. And so I have slowly begun the process of acquiring his entire discography on vinyl. And so today you're gonna see just how far I've gotten. Now, I haven't been able to find the House of Balloons mixtape yet in any stores I've been to, but I managed to get a copy of Thursday at the used record store that I go to. But this version that I got was unused and unopened. In terms of the original trilogy mixtapes, Thursday is probably my absolute favorite. The only problem with listening to this album on vinyl is I regrettably cannot skip the Drake verse. Literally on the track he's on, The Zone, there's an entire song that's just The Weeknd and it's amazing, and then at the end is tacked on Drake's verse, which is only okay. But yeah, this is a double LP, there's nothing inside, and the vinyl is your standard black vinyl. And whatever edition of the Thursday mixtape this is, it does include the bonus track Valerie that was initially made available when the trilogy album came out. So yeah, I've got that. Followed immediately by Echoes of Silence. I'm not gonna lie, when I found Thursday and Echoes of Silence, I found these on separate days, but I was not looking for them because I didn't think there was any way I would be able to just find these in a record store, but I did. And so I have them. This is, of course, again, a double LP, and we've got the woman on the back too. But Echoes of Silence has some amazing tracks on it too, especially the title track, Echoes of Silence. It's such a vibe. It's so depressing, but it's such a vibe. Now, I don't believe this version actually comes with the bonus track. This is the mixtape as it was initially released. And then skipping ahead a bit, we have Beauty Behind the Madness. And as a little bit of behind the scenes, I have actually ordered online a vinyl copy of Kissland, which is probably one of my favorite Weeknd projects aside from his new trilogy. Now that's shipping from the UK, and I haven't received any updates, and it's been like nearly a month. So I may have to look into that. But for now, I have Beauty Behind the Madness, which is an amazing album that honestly sounds, out of all of his like more mainstream albums, this is the one that probably sounds the most like a remastered version of his trilogy mixtapes. Although there are obviously some purely pop hits like Can't Feel My Face. But yeah, let's take a look at this, shall we? This is just a case. So this is the double LP. We've got some cutouts in here that kind of fit the vibe of the album cover. And I don't know if this is a special version or not, but this version comes with the yellow and black striped vinyl, which is a really cool look for a vinyl. So yeah, we've got this. Pretty cool. It's actually crazy how basically every track in this album is an absolute banger. So that was Beauty Behind the Madness. And now we're fast forwarding a little bit in time to possibly my favorite Weeknd album and the first vinyl I ever purchased, After Hours. I've talked at length before about how much I love this album. It is possibly the most cinematic album he's ever had, and that might even include Hurry Up Tomorrow, which is very cinematic. But I absolutely love the way this vinyl looks. We've got some photos of The Weeknd in the classic red suit with the bandages, and this vinyl is very interesting because it's fully transparent with blood splatters on it, which really fits the aesthetic of After Hours. I absolutely adore this album and will spin this quite frequently. I can't even pick a favorite track. The entire album is my favorite track. And of course I have the follow-up to that album, Dawn FM. We've got The Weeknd in his old person makeup here, and we've got the center picture of him here. I absolutely love the vibes as well as the instrumental on this album. It really harkens to bands that I really enjoyed listening to that my dad would play in the car. Stuff like REM, Depeche Mode, people like that. And this album is your classic black vinyl. And of course then came the After Hours Till Dawn tour, which I have as his Live at SoFi Stadium vinyl. This is a triple LP of his tour set. When I was saying that modern artists need to release more live albums, this is what I mean. Because I absolutely love this album. The remixes of classic songs and just his amazing vocals live. And as you can see, we've got some pretty sick artwork on here. We've got The Weeknd on tour. And like I said, it is a triple LP, so we've got records in each one of these. And of course we have the classic black, but we've also got, you know, the little face of that really cool mask that he wore throughout the tour. So yeah, we've got that as well. And the story behind this is so funny. I was at Sunrise Records buying records. I'd already bought a lot of records that day, I'm not gonna lie. And I went to the counter, I fully purchased all that stuff. And then I turned around and on one of the shelves, stuffed behind a bunch of other vinyls, was this Live at SoFi vinyl. And so I saw that, immediately saw my bank account drop. I turned back to the woman at the counter, I'm like, hey. And so yeah, I didn't do my bank account any favors that day, but I did get a really sweet triple LP vinyl. And of course, I have the first pressing for his final album as The Weeknd, Hurry Up Tomorrow, which includes a picture of him being really sad on the back, and the album cover art is kind of the completion of this new trilogy, being, you know, like his face for each era that he was in. Now, the first pressing of Hurry Up Tomorrow is an early version that doesn't have the full track list that we got, but I still absolutely love this vinyl. And on the inside, we have stills of The Weeknd. I believe this is a promo shoot for the upcoming movie, Hurry Up Tomorrow. I just love that he's reached a level of stardom that he's literally doing, like he's having a Prince arc and he's doing a Purple Rain type thing. Now let's get this album out, shall we? Oh no, it's stuck. The hell did I do? This vinyl is fully transparent, which is really cool considering the fact that this album is probably the most honest and the most transparent album he's ever released. So yeah, really cool vinyl, really love it. And it kind of completes the trilogy of Faces. And the story of getting this was actually kind of insane. The week that Hurry Up Tomorrow came out, I drove to Red Deer to get it, obviously, but it was in the middle of winter and there was fresh snow on the road and the wind was gusting at like, it had to be 40 to 50 kilometers an hour. So the whole time I was driving to Red Deer, I could kind of see the road and my wheel was basically at a 45-degree angle just to keep going straight. And I did it just so I could get a first pressing of Hurry Up Tomorrow. I also bought the CD because I'm a very normal person who is not at all obsessed with The Weeknd. And that covers all of the vinyls that I have by The Weeknd, and I only have one more vinyl to show you, and that is Willie Nelson and Family. This is the album Honeysuckle Rose by Willie Nelson and Family, which of course features some Willie Nelson classics like On the Road Again, Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, Whiskey River. I love Willie Nelson's stuff, and so I wanted to, have an album of his. And this, as it turns out, is also a double LP. This was a really cool find from the $5 bin at Rock On Records, and I just wanted to have a Willie Nelson record for my collection because I do love his music. And with that, we have covered my entire vinyl collection up until this point. I'll probably make updates in the future once I buy enough vinyls. I don't know if you can tell, but I've become a little bit obsessed. If I had to pick favorites, probably Coulter Wall, that's a good one. The Dune Part 2 soundtrack, absolutely. To Pimp a Butterfly. To Pimp a Butterfly is an amazing album. Thursday by The Weeknd and After Hours. I love all of his albums, but those are two of my favorites. Austin by Post Malone, that's a good one. Ella and Louie, I put this on pretty regularly. I love it. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Maybe share some of your favorite artists or vinyls that you're collecting if you do collect vinyls. I love talking about music. I love listening to music. It's not something I talk about too often on the channel because I usually focus on movies. But I thought since I'm on a music kick lately, I would show you guys what I've been collecting. I also have a ton of CDs, but I probably won't do a dedicated video talking about those. I just wanted to talk about the vinyls I've been collecting. Anthony Fantano inspired this video, so shout out to him, of course. And I will hopefully see you guys soon for my next video, which will probably be my coverage of Thursday by The Weeknd. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you then. Huge shout out to my patrons, Sean, Happy the Knife, and my top tier patrons, RD, Snowy, and my new top tier patron, Bottomless Potamus, who joined the Patreon very recently. Thank you all so much for supporting my dream of doing this for you all full time, and for, just believing in me and enjoying my videos. It really means the most. And also shout out to my dad for making this crate that is being used to house my vinyls. I don't have an actual setup for my turntable yet, like a nice cabinet that has my turntable and all my vinyls on it. My family's still in the process of moving, so once we're moved, I'm going to either buy or build this cabinet that is gonna, look nice and store all my vinyls and look really cool, but I don't have that right now, so thank you to Dad for making this for me. And that's gonna be the end of this video, and I will see you next time for probably my coverage of Thursday. I hope you're excited for that because I know that I am. And cut.